September 25th, 2019.
Okay.
Sustainability Board meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
How many?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right.
And we also have
First thing I'd like to do is open the floor up for public comment. Each person has 3 minutes to come to the podium and say what you need to say.
I'm reading this really great book. I'll just flip through.
Couple paragraphs?
Yeah.
That'd be nice. State your name and address, okay? Any further public comment? No? Okay, next agenda item. Staff update.
Thank you, Board. Currently underway, we have completed our community garden work day last Sunday on September 15th. 10 volunteers. Dave Bigliotti was there, however he's not here this evening. Did a lot of great work, got ready for the next planting season. We also had over $4,000 worth of seeds donated that will contribute back to the community as part of our community garden program. Next, we installed 35 Keep America Beautiful cigarette collection containers that were previously approved by council. They're at all of our beach accesses, and we're going to finish installing them around municipal facilities. And we will show a video here in just a moment after I'm done with my report that Dylan Hansen from Balance for Earth created that we'll use to educate people about the videos. We continue to work with the Green Team, Alexis Miller, to talk with our different Green Team representatives from different departments to implement Resolution 1014 pertaining to the phase-out of single-use plastics and styrofoam and future sustainable best practices in the city. We've had 2 meetings so far, and we've conducted a preliminary audit of existing inventory and are currently completing a survey. Every employee has been given a survey, and once they finish that, they'll do an interview one-on-one with the representative, one from each department, and they'll report back to Alexis or myself, and then we'll talk about that at our next meeting and look at how we can move forward with that Resolution 1014. The testing continues for the natural herbicide alternatives to glyphosate products, Roundup products that contain glyphosate. The test areas at the community garden were allowed to regrow so that we can do second phase of testing, and we just began our second phase of testing. I met with Delora Junior High School and Satellite High School to discuss the continuation of the Junior Sustainability Boards. The senior high school had enough students to actually do a meeting. We had our first meeting. It went very well. I continued working with Department of Environmental Protection to coordinate the permitting of Sampson's Island as part of Green Achievement Target number 18. We might have to adjust some of the techniques used for oyster implementation so that we can actually get permitting. Going through all that right now. Also worked with Public Works to prepare for the next planting day, and I have a flyer, and I'll be posting this on our Facebook page for this Saturday, September 28th from 9 a.m. until noon to do some planting along DeSoto as part of our original NEP DeSoto Stormwater Enhancement Grant.
Where are the cross streets for that?
Cross streets for that are going to be Temple and DeSoto.
Awesome.
Yeah, just to the east of Temple where that bridge is. That
Yeah.
Bridge, the first bridge, the most eastern bridge.
Where there was just construction and they
Correct.
finished that, right?
So we had to wait for that to finish. And
Yeah.
We're going to do 80 feet wide, 80 feet long and 6 feet wide.
Okay.
Next, we have public events and meetings. The Thursday, August 29th workshop, community gardening was canceled unfortunately due to the hurricane. So we'll either reschedule that workshop for sometime next year, most likely, or we'll do a special workshop for community gardeners, and we'll announce that on our Facebook page. On Friday, September 20th, the Sustainability Bike Ride was held, and it looked like it was a great success. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. Of course, you can talk more about that later, if you'd like, Board Chair. Next, the Sustainability Working Group, Brevard Sustainability Working Group, the BSWG, held its meeting on September 23rd. at the IFAS building, Food and Agricultural Sciences Building, 3695 Lake Drive in Cocoa. Then on Tuesday, September 24th, that was the day that we held our first Sustainability Board meeting for Satellite High School. They have selected roles, they are looking at projects, and I'm just going to kind of help lead them by all the things I've learned from being a part of this board, and hopefully bring that to them so they can create agendas and follow in your footsteps. Future topics and special presentations. On Thursday, September 26th, tomorrow, here in this very room, workshop number 20, Climate Change 101, will discuss the basics of climate change and how it impacts our community. As before I mentioned, recently attended a training for the ACCO, Association of Climate Change Officials, and I'm going to use a lot of that material, so I'm going to give a big kudos and shout out to them as part of my presentation because I'll be using a lot of the same slides. A lot of the info comes from NOAA, and if anybody's available to attend it, here, online, anybody that's listening, please come out tomorrow to the City Hall Council Chambers. Next, classroom presentations on stormwater are being scheduled. I spoke with Erica Mayer from Surfside next door, and she's going to host one of our stormwater talks for the kids, for their 6th graders. We haven't decided on an exact date yet, but we're getting there. October 20th from 12 to 4 at the library, they'll be hosting the Brevard Library Con. Very exciting. I have posters of this too, and there's some in the lobby if you'd like to take a look. And the theme this year is villains. So if you want to come dressed as your favorite villain and give comic books away to kids and play games and stuff.
What date is that again?
That is Library Con.
October 20th.
Okay.
Thank you, Jesse. Yes. October 20th.
Yes, 12 to 4.
From noon to 4.
Yep.
I'll be dressed as my favorite villain and doing the contest. I'll be judging the costume contest.
Hey, and Little Lamb Shop has a number of costumes with villains.
Just in case.
Check it out.
Yeah. The Brevard Sustainability
Are you
Working
going to
Group-
be dressed as the algae monster?
Yes.
The Muck
oh,
Monster?
God.
No, I'm not going to do Swamp Thing. More of an anti-hero. I'm going to do the Joker because it's a lot of fun, and hopefully I can play card tricks and stuff like that. The next Brevard Sustainability Working Group will be on Monday, October 28th at noon, as usually scheduled for the 4th Monday of every month. Again, 3695 Lake Drive in Cocoa.
Are you encouraging us to attend
Yes,
some
I'm
of those?
encouraging you to attend
Okay, I'm
those.
just clarifying. It's great to know, but I would like to go to one of those.
So we are planning, kind of as an addendum to that we are planning a solar workshop for Brevard. Sustainability individuals on different boards, gearing it towards folks like yourselves, and you'll be getting a save the date about that. And then as a bonus to that, we'll also be doing the solar expo here, but we're still kind of ironing out the invite list and the guest list and stuff like that. That should be in November, and I'll have more to report on that at the next meeting.
Okay, on October 28th, so that would be a good day to attend if you can.
For the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, for all folks out there listening, if they'd like to actually come to a meeting, please. Oh, we're not live? No. Well, if they're listening to it later.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Yeah, the next sustainability meeting is the 23rd, correct?
Let's pretend that we're live.
Right, let's just...
Other than that, if that's okay, I'll play the video for everybody. If everybody's all right, so let's watch Dylan's video.
So this is the one he's been working on for a while, right?
No, this is the one that is specifically for cigarette butts.
Okay.
With our new containers.
It's shocking how many you still see cigarette butts.
I mean, still out there, I checked recently, although the containers had something in them.
They're just like in the world, like.
Oh, yeah. Shrubs. So they're real short, real sweet, but it gets the point across as to what these things are, because I was talking with Dylan and thinking, well, hey, if we're gonna put these out there and then people are
Can you
gonna.
play it one more time?
Yeah, let's play it one more time.
It's like, not long.
No, more like a PSA, and this will be posted tomorrow on our Facebook page. Hopefully people will know what they are now. They have been getting some use. I mean, still out there, I checked recently, and, you know, all of the containers had something in them.
They're just like in the world, you know, like.
Oh, yeah. Trillions. So they're real short, real sweet, but it gets the point across as to what these things are, you know, because I was talking with Dylan and thinking, well, hey, if we're gonna put these out there and then people are
Can you
gonna.
play it one more time?
Yeah, let's play it one more time.
It's like, not long.
No, more like a PSA, and this will be posted tomorrow on our Facebook page. Hopefully people will know what they are now. They have been getting some use, but hopefully they'll get more use. And I think I have a volunteer that's actually gonna change them out. A student wanted to get some hours, so. I'll be
So,
honest.
where do they go to get recycled?
I believe they all end up at TerraCycle. You double check that. TerraCycle. Should be able to make them into benches and different things.
Is that a local thing?
No, that'd be shipped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to weigh them or count them or something?
We could weigh them. Sure. I mean, if the kid does his job and collects them and brings them to one location, we could definitely weigh them. It'd be nice to get some
It'd
data
be
like
an
that.
interesting statistic over time to
Yeah.
see.
Also, I passed out from our last meeting the percentages of each green achievement target that we reviewed.
Thank you.
It's really simple Excel, but I'm gonna just keep adding to it, and then we'll do another one later. Other than that, again, I got the flyers for our planting day, and also a flyer for Indian River Lagoon Day, which is, we are gonna be helping to promote this, and I've been working with the different partners on this. It's the same thing that happens every year. This time it's gonna be at Front Street Park, and it's Indian River Lagoon Day. And we'll be posting more about that on our Facebook as well. And with that, yield my time.
All right, cool. Any further
What's
public
that?
comments?
Oh, whoop. I was gonna also mention that we're going to take a break from looking into the continuation of creating new green achievement targets until that goes to council and stuff like that. We need to kind of have that talk later and finish what we have on our plates now, because there's a lot of projects that we can see from our conversation in the day that we need to complete. So let's look at those and kind of focus on those, and any help that can be given to completing those would be greatly appreciated from the board. So we're just going to kind of put the creation of new green achievement targets on the back burner for now.
Thank
you. Any further public comment? Right. Any
Thank you.
further public comment? No?
Yeah.
All right. All right, next item on our agenda is discuss take action on green achievement targets. We just talked about that. Nick highlighted that. And I heard about this this afternoon at about, 3:30, right before they were about to close. So I was taken aback for a moment. But I sat and thought about it for a while, and I think that this is actually an opportunity for us to really polish off the conversation, polish off the definition of our board, and it gives us time to work towards the next few green achievements. I've been having conversations about our steps forward and about possibly only doing maybe 10 green achievements instead of doing another 20. But today I did find out we'll put that on hold, but I was going to bring to the board because I'm still thinking about it. What could we do to still prepare for the next 20? Like I think this.
I'd suggest that we listen to what Jennifer had to say at the last meeting about what I call the 60,000-foot view.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do that. I think it was inferred, or everybody kind of had it there, but it wasn't explicitly stated. Seems to me that this board would do well to undertake a process, and I don't think needs to be terribly arduous, to undertake to do that so that when we do come back to the GAT revision, you got some, I'll call it adult supervision as to, what they might look like. And she can probably better explain than I can how we might go about doing that.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and I actually feel like not doing new GATs right now is okay. And actually, Johnny said that very well, I think. What I was thinking last time is coming onto this board and being a new board member, what I really would like is an organizing framework around the GATs and the really long-term vision, the 2070, year 2070 and all of that, the long-term for for Satellite Beach, and then how we have a decision-making process related to that. So the good thing we have going is that there are so many good things happening. And we talked about all of the GATs and the achievements and the list. And I think I remember saying, Nick, when you were listing out those, I would vote for all of them on the list. I think they're all good. But we're it feels to me at least, in an ad hoc kind of, I think you said this before, John, approach sometimes where we're getting a lot of information. We're looking at all of the GATs in one list kind of way. And it's hard to know how to lean forward on one over the other at a given point in time, because we're not really thinking about it in sequence, like how one thing leads to the next and how they relate to each other. I don't see the organizing frame there for sequencing these things out to really leverage our time and our role on this board. So that's what I would love to do, is really clarify this board's role in achieving the GATs for the next 5 or 10 years, and what is that organizing frame so that we can have a decision-making protocol for every month. We know what we're going to do.
Right. I think another thing too is we do have these GATs that are still outstanding, and I'd like to organize and maybe commit to certain ones. I know we've committed to a few of them, but we only have 2 years left, essentially, to finish the ones that we have. Am I correct?
That's not true.
I thought it was a 5-year.
It's a living document, the State Building Action Plan. I mean, we'll probably change it again at some point and do some edits, but they're going to look at that at about 5 years. That doesn't mean everything has to be completed.
Okay.
we'll just update it to what's been done and then, you know, kind of move out of the gaps as completed. And then we'll just have like the next version 2.0.
But see, part of that process would be, we were focused basically on sustainability, but we didn't, you know, sea level rise in our minds and stuff. But we now have lots of documents telling where to go. We've got, just yesterday, the IPCC released their oceans and cryosphere, or whatever. It's one of their reports. And like the others, the current predictions are worse than the last set, which was worse than the set before. And they've got a chart there. It's the first one I've seen that goes out to 2300. And according to that chart, the most likely is that by 2300, sea level will rise something like, and if I recall correctly, 13 to 14 feet, which means that the city has become a very narrow stretch of land, if it's still here at all. And so there's changing conditions. We can't sit here and plan for today, because tomorrow, much down the road, is going to be a lot different. And the problem is that each tomorrow isn't going to look much different unless an Irma actually, or what was the last one that came through, actually makes landfall here, and then it'll be, tomorrow was really a big change. And so, you know, you figure out what you're facing, and then you figure out what's important, and then you, like some of these gaps, probably they're so big, you need to come into little pieces. You know, if we know we can't, you know, I'd love to solarize the whole city. I know we can't do that in 5 years.
Right.
And so you go down and you cut it into smaller pieces that maybe you can do in 5 years, and then you just take it. But you've got to have the 60,000 foot before you can get all that detail.
Julie, do you know if, when this is updated at the 5-year mark, is it the expectation that this board then would be sort of hoping to lead that? Is that a council-appointed work group? Like, how does that?
I'm not entirely positive, because it was like Lexi, Zach, and Dr. Lindeman. Did Rochelle help write it all?
Yes.
Yeah, and the board was involved.
Yeah, definitely. You guys definitely gave input, but it's a collaborative effort for sure.
Sure.
And
Jennifer?
council approves.
Lexi, their staff, and she
Sure.
had an answer for your question.
Okay. Oh, is this working?
You don't want to bring them up.
Okay. Well, so like Julie said, the Sustainability Action Plan was written as a living document. Prior to the action plan, there was something called a sustainability assessment done. What the assessment does is it lets us know where, it let us know where the city was at that time, and that's how you build your plan. A lot of
City
cities-
residents,
Sorry?
city resident input?
The assessment had to do with vulnerability to
Right,
sea level
right.
rise, had to do
Right.
storm surge, recycling, population growth, development, planning and zoning changes. It kind of all those small components of a really complex issue that is
Sure.
vulnerability. And so what a lot of cities have done in the past is they just have a plan. They don't necessarily assess where they are. Satellite Beach wanted to do it a little bit differently.
Right.
So we assessed where we were and then decided what we built our action plan based on that. The green achievement targets are meant to be those kind of dynamic goals and objectives for the city. So some of them are quality of life, some of them are community outreach, some of them are built infrastructure, land and water use, development practices. So there's kind of these categories. If you're looking for guidance in how the board can participate or find direction in what GATs to focus on now, the ones that exist in the most updated version of the plan, which was in 2017, as well as where to look forward to by 2022, which is that 5-year assessment mark. In the plan and in the assessment report, there's a 120-item matrix that defines objectives and goals and ideas and concepts for future GATs, as well as just concerns and issues for the city based on urgency, timeliness, severity of consequence if nothing is done, and impact in the community. And that's an annex at the back, or an appendix, I should say, at the back of the report.
Right.
So familiarizing with the assessment as well as that matrix at the back, the matrix was kind of the backbone of that report, and it came from the assessment directly. So the assessment was completed, this matrix was this, big table that was kind of the output of that assessment, and that became the backbone of the living document that is known as the Sustainability Action Plan.
And then we go about the business of taking that massive matrix and then thinking about what are the next steps.
Yeah.
So
and
there's still that work.
So the current gaps came from that matrix.
Sure, yeah.
So you can, if you
Yeah.
look through it, you can kind of see where it was sourced. Obviously, 20 is nothing compared to 120 different items.
Right.
And like Julie said, it is a living document, so there's kind of constant need for assessment when it comes to it. And obviously, we can't constantly be analyzing every move we're making, otherwise we're not going to make any progress. But having that intermittent tracking of your current gaps, as well as looking into what's feasible, up and coming on that 5-year mark, is what's going to be helpful. And the reason that it's a 5-year mark is because if you kind of start to assess it with any like higher frequency, so with less time between assessments, again, you might be oversteering your ship a little bit. There's nothing wrong with those small corrections, but reassessing too early tends to kind of you split yourself, you're kind of spreading yourself too thin. And you want to have time to have success. That's a really big piece of reaching those goals and those objectives. But the big part is that it is a living, breathing document, like Julie said. It is meant to be dynamic and to meet the needs of our population. And the level of involvement from staff, board, or council can also change. That's just a decision that we're going to have to make as a team and as a city. And then we can build that into the next iteration of the document.
So summarizing what you're saying, it sounds to me like you're saying within the 20 GATs that are identified for the 5 years, the role of this board is to support development of community initiatives related to completing those GATs. And sometimes that work can maybe look like, great job, we're really on course, and sometimes it can be helping to actually come up with what those initiatives are.
Either what those initiatives are or how they'll be achieved. So your GATs are kind of your benchmarks. So creating a community garden, achieving some level of LEED certification, composting, mangroving shorelines, fertilizer tracking. So those are kind of your like, hey, these are components of a sustainable city as we've defined it based on our assessment. The board, as I understood it when it was written, and this was a while ago when I was still in school, as I understood it, was meant to help achieve those targets. So it's not you can help define them, yes, every 5 years, the kind of that assessment. The maintenance of it and the progress of it was also something that the board was created for. That was to my understanding. And I was,
She said yes.
yeah. So, and I didn't have as big of a role in this plan as Zach and Dr. Lindemann did. I was kind of like a supplementary, like kind of helped where I could. So I wasn't a major contributor to it, but I was there for its creation, and I mean, that was kind of that. So that's my familiarity with it.
Go ahead.
So two things that I was thinking about were, Nick, how can we jump on to these outstanding GATs and help you out? Because that sounds like what our function is, to help you out with doing that.
Exactly.
And also, how can we take some time to define our next set of GATs? Not all 20 at once. Maybe we can talk about one episode or
so
continue
again,
to define it.
To answer your question, each of these have a role. And I came at the board a couple of months ago, maybe even 6 months ago, and asked, what green achievement target are you most interested in assisting the completion of that?
Are you receiving help in them?
On some of them, sure. Steve has stepped up a lot and been very involved with trying to get commercial solar on a local business. And that's something that, he's reached out to me before we've had meetings. He's gone and talked to different businesses. That's the kind of role that the board member can have to assist in the completion of that green achievement target, because staff only has so much time to do so many things. And as board members, you are in a unique position to be informed about the different green achievement targets and to actually go out into the community and get some of those things done. Some of them might be like the solar on commercial buildings. Other ones might just be as simple as like number 10, for example, the mangrove shorelines, right? I surveyed all the mangrove shorelines. We got a number. We created a program to get residents to put a living shoreline on their property with a one-to-one grant up to $500. I've talked to a few residents. If you as board members can help talk to other residents and help get that program going and get more residents putting mangrove shorelines in, it's a great way to assist in the completion of a green achievement target. We've had lots of board members with great ideas that we've gone after that are all very sustainable. Some of them did fall in line with the green achievement targets, and some kind of built off of them and other things like that, or were inspired by them. But another one could be the Starry Skies, working as a board member with Public Works to kind of go around and look at the different lights and make sure, like, oh, this one's on late at night, maybe we want to look at that. If you're driving around, just kind of being aware of these green achievement targets will assist in their completion too. With the oyster one, we got the funding, we got the project, showing up, getting volunteers, assisting in the implementation of that, and that is going to require some maintenance by having a volunteer, and a board member can also be a volunteer to snorkel it and identify, if it needs maintenance, if there is growth. You can even take little surveys of the growth on the oysters to make sure that we hit our goal of 10% oyster development within a year period as part of the grant. Things like that will be very beneficial. Composting, as we get better with the program, KBB just got a grant for composting. We're going to have a compost workshop. That's going to be down the line, assisting with those workshops, assisting with the tabling at events. All those kinds of things are great ways that the board can help assist with the completion of the green achievement targets.
Do you have a list of all those actions that you need?
I will make.
I was just going to recommend maybe we can expand on this list here, and underneath each one, we can give you some ideas. And if you want to expand on those ideas and with your own creative spin on it, or something else you thought of, then you can certainly discuss those, in meetings with Nick or in the board meetings, however you want to handle it.
Right. I think so. Something as simple for role clarity, I think, is stating even in the handbook. I know that the handbook has been a living document as well. Just coming on, because I, as a new board member, I just, I think, so what are my expectations really here? And I was on the beautification before that, so it's a different board. Something as simple as stating what's very helpful is participation in these meetings, independent research, and involvement outside of board meetings in as many activities as you can, but not setting some sort of requirement. But I think the statement of that is also helpful to emphasize the working board. I think a sort of in-person orientation would help, and just, yeah.
There's been a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
And a lot of you guys are relatively new.
Yeah.
Only, 2 founding members still on.
Yeah.
And so I understand where you're coming from.
And all that's to say that you guys are doing a bang-up job. I mean, yeah.
But I do recognize.
No, and it's not a criticism. It's more like, how can we, yeah.
Actually, she made a point. It's not the Sampson's Island board anymore. Sampson's Island working board.
Yeah.
Next time they amend the book, maybe that's something we ought to consider.
Yeah.
In other words, this isn't a board where you're supposed to come up here, sit here for 2 hours once a month and then disappear.
Right.
Which, along that line, we did this exercise on the GATs. I think there's a GAT that we haven't listed. That's putting people on bicycles. You've already met that GAT, but it wasn't listed.
Oh.
And I think there may be some other things like that, but that just came to mind, that when we're looking at this, we've accomplished at least one thing that nowhere was addressed in the GATs, and it ought to be acknowledged.
Oh, when we do our next version, it will definitely be acknowledged.
I think the same way. What if we are working on these 20 and something comes along, an opportunity for us to make a difference, and we are able to achieve that? Like, how do we?
There's no reason not to
make
do
sure
it.
to get that.
You just say, I want to do this initiative, and we'll build you.
Right.
Yeah, actually, they,
Just won't do it until you.
As long as we go through the right process, right, of telling the council that we want to do it, and then getting their approval, and then once it's bought in, we do it. There's
Sort
absolutely,
of like meeting with Courtney to
Yeah.
have her help you
Right,
define how to accomplish your goals and what's feasible.
right.
And that,
Like a sea turtle recycling container?
which went to council, got council approval, and went through the process, absolutely.
But, you know, we also had a conversation, I'm hoping Ms. Courtney will come through a little more often. You're gonna send somebody else next month?
I'm gonna talk to her about that.
Okay.
and that's not to say, so talking about getting extra things done, right? Nobody's gonna ever say, oh, you know, you're doing a little bit too much, sorry, you're doing too much good,
Right.
you know, reel back. The gaps aren't meant to be a fence, they're meant to be a starting point. So obviously, bikes and a sea turtle recycling bin and all these other things are achievements, and as long as there's tracking with them, they will be added to the assessment of the document, or the revisitation of the document. And that can be an additional section of like extras, you know, extra gaps or other achievements. Yeah, other achievements, because things that we've done should be tracked and then celebrated and properly documented in a kind of formal way, because it gives our city substance, you know, more so than it already has, because we are pretty cool in terms of a lot of the stuff that we do, and if we can be a little bit cooler, nobody's gonna be upset about it.
Well, related to that cool factor, we have a number of presenters that have come since I've been here who've talked about Satellite Beach Sustainability Board is leading the charge among all neighboring, and I think I would agree, but I would also think that, you know, I'm taking credit for having been here for 5 minutes. And I think also, what does that mean then for what this board represents and what we do functionally as our role to keep leading the charge as people are perceiving it? So I'm wondering within the role, which is clearly, you know, meeting GATS, but also within the role, what does that mean? Does that mean more collaboration with other neighboring towns and their sustainability boards? More formally, obviously, Nick goes to other places, but do we have a mechanism where we want to more formalize that within board members? And I know, Nick, that you'll say, hey, this is happening, but
Yes.
are we formally coordinating that more?
So I'll say absolutely.
Yeah.
And in the past, we did host the first sustainability, you know, what do we call it? We call it a summit.
All right, yeah.
So this was
Yeah,
a sustainability
and
summit where
that's
we
what you're-
invited all the other boards, and we're going to do that again.
Right.
We've been talking a little bit, actually, just yesterday, I talked with the zoo,
Yeah.
and Keith Winston has offered to host the location at
I
Brevard
thought it was
Zoo.
gonna be Titusville or something.
No, they'll be invited,
Okay.
because they have solar, and they're gonna talk about solar, for a different thing too. But yeah, so Keith Winston at the zoo had offered to host, and at a neutral location.
Yeah.
And then as board members, you know, you get to help facilitate those events, answer questions, and one of the things that we would do is, you know, invite other boards to those
Right.
summits, and then they're gonna ask you, you know, how is it going? What's an issue that you may have with maybe speakers and content, or achievements, or contributions, or in the term of like either volunteer hours, or
Right.
whatever the question may be from a different individual that, you know, is in a very similar seat to you.
Right.
So it's a lot of that collaboration through that event, and we were supposed to be doing those yearly, but no one picked up the torch.
Right.
So we're gonna pick it back up again.
Well, let me ask you then, related to what you said before, how can we then not passively wait to hear updates and sort of say, okay, where are you going to put us, but how can we lean in now and help lead the development or planning of that? Because it sounds like that's what you're saying. with
Yeah,
board members.
absolutely. So Chris is always great about just scheduling time to come into my office and chat, and he'll come into the city, and, you know, it's a great way to just kind of be involved. One of my
Okay.
favorite quotes is, "You decide your level of involvement."
Okay, what I would need actually is if you could say, here's the 2 or 3 things that would be great.
Okay.
Let's think about that and then lean in. And then, so some, you know, because I don't know anything about the event. I've never
Right.
been to it, and just any kind of like, so here's the landscape, here's really a great role for a board member. I'm going to, now you can go. Now you know, just that little background and that little like small scope of work for,
Little platform.
yeah,
to get
yeah,
you-
exactly. That'd be super helpful.
Sure.
And then, yeah.
I'll create one for the summit, kind of like what Julie was saying for the different GATs of expanding with the ideas of how to help for each of those. And it
Yeah.
can do the same thing for events.
Yeah, that'd be great, and I'd be happy to volunteer
We
for that.
going to host or organize this, because I thought you'd said the Brevard group was going to.
They're,
Run
no,
a
no, I
summit.
don't think that they're gonna do that. I can ask, but,
I thought 1 or 2 meetings ago you
Did we-
mentioned
did I
that
say
they
that?
were.
Yeah.
oh, well, then it must be true.
Well, we have to clarify.
I will clarify. But if I
Yeah,
said
we
before,
had
it
the
must
thing
mean
to
I had a
clarify.
conversation, and then yes.
Yeah.
Because they might even be up to the zoo. I mean, the zoo sounds great.
I just got a couple things, and I may be repeating myself from last month, in which case I'm sorry. You can all drink. Just 2 things. One is kind of my view, I guess, on the role of the board, and secondarily, the role of the board members within it. I mean, for my part, I mean, we talk about 2030 and being under 13 feet of water. If that's going to happen, I don't mean to be a realist, but like, this board's not going to stop it. Like that is factors far beyond.
2,300.
2,300 years, or whatever.
Not in 10 years, hopefully.
Yeah, 2030, yeah, that'd be.
Big difference.
That'd be, no, but 81 years from now, and I don't mean to be that we just, put our heads in the sand,
Right.
but I think that we do need to be somewhat realistic about things that are within our grasp that we can achieve, and 20 is a lot, and we have a lot on here that still needs to be done. So I mean, I've got no objection to trying to focus. I mean, like, for example, like the mangrove shorelines, I agree, that's something that we can do, and for the lagoon, and particularly the lagoon here in Satellite Beach, and same thing with the trying to do the oysters off Sampson. So I think to some degree we need to focus on what's within our grasp as not just a board, but as a city, and so I think that's appropriate, and I do think that we should try to finish what we've started if it's doable. Like, because there's some things that may not be doable that we thought were doable, and we'll know that at a certain point. But I think there's things that are still on this list that are doable. So I think trying to focus is good. With regard to role of board members, everyone has different skills, and everyone has different situations. I mean, like myself, for example, I am a small business person. I've got a young family. I'm involved in other community stuff. Like, my time to actually get out there and labor is limited. But at the same time, I feel like hopefully there's other things that I can bring to the board. And that doesn't mean that I've gone to plantings and stuff like that. I definitely want to provide labor, but I think that it doesn't have to be one size fits all as long as we're engaged. What we shouldn't be doing is just showing up to meetings, and I agree with that. But I view our role as to be kind of a conduit between, I know I said this last meeting, but a conduit between the city government and the population. And so by getting out there and laboring and leading by example, that's helpful. But we have a lot more available labor in Satellite Beach and even in the broader local community than just here. So by raising awareness, Dylan's not here, but he's a great does a lot of stuff raising awareness to get other people to be involved. So I mean, I think that's, again, that how that fits is going to be, hopefully we do have a diverse board with diverse skill sets and so forth. So hopefully we can engage in a lot of different ways. But that's my thought on it. So I think it's, now I'm being long-winded, but it's good that we're thinking about what our role is, because I think that we don't want to just be self-satisfied, and just going along. But that's my thoughts on it. But I think that we should each individually take a look at what our purpose is here, just as we're collectively doing that.
Well, I mean, achieving the targets is definitely a collaboration between staff and board members. It's meant to be very cohesive, because there's some things you guys just can't do as volunteers that, like, we would need to submit grants to do projects. But when it comes to more of the legwork and talking to your community, your neighbors, friends, that's definitely where you would help us get the word out. Starting to make a little more sense?
Yeah, well, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's, there's a lot of information and presentations, which is it's a gift that comes through here. But it's a lot of information, and I think just continually to clarifying. I will say, so I'm probably on this too, because like my day job is working with organizations and boards in which there's usually like 4 to 6 different types of people who perceive different types of things, and that ongoing coordination is never in the bag, you know? And so I think that's part of it, is that reiteration of, you know, your specific role and how we lean in, and are we making decisions of any kind, and how do you do that? And that kind of thing, I think, is good clarity. Yeah.
Anything you want to make decisions on, it has to go through council, because
Sure.
they're ultimately our boss.
Sure.
But
But on the focus,
Yeah.
just even on how we,
We
yeah.
should have a
Yeah.
nice meeting with Courtney at some point soon.
Yeah.
Just to kind of figure out where you want to do
Yep.
things.
Yeah, I'll email her again and see if we can set something up, yeah. Oh, I see, that's the magic. Yeah. See, it's these little tricks that's good for clarity.
5 years from.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
That's the thing.
So, all this being said, we're getting clarification, that's awesome. No, it's great. I think this has been a great exercise, everything we've done so far. But I'd like to get something organized. Do you think it's possible for us to assign board members to certain green achievements, or can we get with you about a certain one?
Yeah, I think volunteering more than assigning.
Well, you know, you talked about a lot of
Once
the
you volunteer
actions.
for it, we'll put your name next to it, maybe.
Right, you
Or-
talked about a lot of the actions that are needed for different green achievements, and
Okay.
maybe we could plan to meet with Nick, each one of us, and see where we could fit in, and then start to, because monthly, we've been discussing projects that we've worked on, but they haven't always been about the GETs. They've been about other side
Right.
projects and so forth. So if we have,
That's fair.
I'll throw it out here, and I've expressed this to Nick before, about the oysters at Sampson's is of particular interest to me, so that's, you can put my name next to that one.
I already did.
Good.
so can you commit to a time to meet with Nick, or
We'll
is that
figure,
too much to
we'll,
ask?
we'll figure that
Yeah, well,
out, yeah.
I think email for me, honestly, every board member, email is the best because there's a record of it. That way I can go back to it, and that keeps me, John's really great about that, about sending emails, because it's there, it's a record, I can go back and look at it and be reminded of that conversation. Whereas a phone call is good, but a little email is great.
What's a good time for me to check in with you about that meeting? I'd like to make sure,
Okay.
you know, things are moving along.
Tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
No, no, I want to just make sure that you have talked to him, so maybe in 2 weeks' time, I can check in with you about that specific.
Greg Kavanaugh over there with that calendar.
7th, 8th, or 9th of October look pretty good. So somewhere that second week in October.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know I love coming to see you.
I
Gives me a
was more
reason.
available and I can chat longer.
We're trying to do video chat, but you won't answer when I call.
Well, Facebook? Video chat?
No, I was trying with WhatsApp, but I guess you don't.
Oh, I'll have that.
So, is there any other one that anybody has interest in? I know you have Starry Night, Starry Sky, and we have Starry Sky at 50% because we need to change the language on it a little bit more. Is it still
We
there?
changed the language, we need just to follow through with what we did, really. Jazzy, if you want to keep working on that with me? We can just maybe take a day and then go around and inventory and then assess and put in the timers with Public Works. We'll put in individual requests for the specific things, and once there's a work order request, consider that, one more percentage, just take that.
What's a realistic time to check in on that?
I mean, again, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, if everybody wants to kind of check in by the second week in October, that looks like it's a good time for me before I have too many other things that start showing up.
I will be out of the country during that week, but I'll get in touch with you when I get back in the country.
Yeah, an email there. Also, composting is another green achievement target that we're going to kind of start on a little bit with KBB and everything like that. So that could be another kind of up and coming one that might be of interest to anyone.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
and also the complete street.
Yeah, okay. I might actually direct you to work with Alexis a little bit on that.
Perfect.
and-
Are you doing
the next
stuff on
meeting.
that already, or just?
Very preliminary right
Okay,
now, but
yeah.
if you want to get caught up, then
Yeah.
you can contact me, and I might
Okay.
have to pull in my supervisor for it, because it's
Okay.
really her project.
Mhm.
Sure.
But, yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, Nick, on composting,
Yes, sir.
I got an email, actually several emails from KBB about their lottery for,
Lottery? Yeah.
what kind of composting thingy are they?
So they're looking at 3 different types, yeah, right. So they have a tumbler, they have an in-ground, and then they have, I think, a second tumbler type. So we talked about that, Brian and I, just the other day real quick, and I told him what we're using, so he hasn't decided on the type yet, I don't think.
Okay,
Do you
because
have any
that was,
recommendations?
well, I got it and talked to my wife. She was interested, but she had a question is, what kind is it and can she handle it?
Right. Yeah. Some of the tumblers are really good. Over at Surfside, they have a few different varieties, and of course, the more you're willing to spend, higher the quality. The tumbler that I purchased from Amazon did not do so well, and the legs broke off, so I steered him away from that brand and towards, I like the in-ground ones that we have because no tumble, it's just all turn. You just hand turn it. But, yeah, you want to hop on that one, John? I can put you next to compost.
Well,
Since you're a lagoon-friendly lawn person,
hmm?
since you're on the LFL program.
Well, we'll see what,
Okay.
how that goes.
Steve, you want to stay on the solar commercial?
Sure.
Right.
Are you going to talk tonight about solar?
Not too much.
No.
I was just gonna say, if anyone knows any business owners in Satellite Beach that you personally know, and if you do know somebody, then tell me what their business is, and I could scope out the roof, with Google Earth or whatever, and say, hey, this is feasible or not feasible.
Okay.
And then,
I didn't know if you were going to have a presentation tonight. Were you going to present anything? No?
no,
Okay, cool. All right, so I guess that leaves me. I got to pick one of these things.
You don't have to pick one tonight.
No. But,
Don't have to, it's not.
I know.
If anybody wants to help promote the workshops and get more people to show up,
Oh, well,
I'd love to do that.
yeah, I would really appreciate that. We've been doing them for 2 years, and we've gotten 25 people as the most that showed up once. But on average, it's more like 5 to 6, to be honest.
So,
And again, tomorrow's climate change. Real fun topic.
oh, yeah.
So, lastly, before we move off of this topic, we really had some great ideas come out of the slip method practice that we did. We've got them all listed here from the last meeting. I don't want to have these things die, per se. So I'm wondering how we can carry them forward. I know that we had a lot of great ideas, and these are just the surface. I'm wondering, can we, I know we love reading, is there any way we could have an agenda item each month of different research that board members have done? Just to bring light, I think it'd be that information would be documented. So just having an agenda item just for anyone who has research that they've done.
I mean, that can definitely follow your board member comments.
Yeah?
Yeah.
For the most part, I've been pursuing things. Got scheduled to talk to Nick about community-wide solar. He and I have had some back and forth about microplastics, which I'm becoming increasingly concerned about. I think one Nestle water bottle was found to have over 1,000 pieces of microplastic in it that was sampled. And I think a larger, just like you starting the bicycle thing, it's when somebody gets a burr under the saddle, just takes off and does it, and as long as you're working with Mick and stuff, so he's got an idea what's going on and can provide the heft to the city when it's needed.
I think it would,
Find that an easy way to work.
yeah, I'm
You're
sorry,
gonna go for it,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, Mark.
No.
Just quickly, I think building on that, this is just one idea, I think what would help me is if finishing these GATs, being the working board, organizing, let's say, 6 to 12 months, or let's take it smaller, I don't know, 3 to 6 months of agendas where we are able to know what's coming up, at least internally. I don't know if all of it has to go on the website, and then we can, stay ahead of it in terms of the GAT categories that are active now and what we are doing, and that we can focus on 1 or 2 of them. But we know this maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe, I don't know, farther in advance, because I think what we've been doing is we've having a lot of good information, but to kind of zone in on one of those GATs that we're actively trying to complete, and then be able to bring our, whoever's foremost on it, our own research, have homework, and have that planned out maybe farther in advance might be helpful.
But do you think we can plan out the agendas for the next 2 months now? I mean, based on the commitments that we have, the mangrove shorelines, that could be an agenda item. We could start filling out our agenda already, I
I
think.
suspect that November and December, we won't have meetings.
Well, we got some dates.
We do have to talk about that, remember?
We got some dates. Yeah. And I would definitely like to make those dates because we have Founder's Day coming up, and I intend to have a even bigger presence than we had last year. And I'll talk about that a little bit more too. But, all right, so I think we've
Mark.
exhausted that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just want, and I may be repeating myself again here too, but I think that there's, I think we should acknowledge there's a tension somewhat, and and I'm not saying one is all good and one is all bad, between things becoming overly dry where we just look at this, list every month and what have we done to update to move the ball forward on the GATS. But on the other hand, and I'm the first to acknowledge, I always tell people when I tell people I'm on this board, I'm like, I'm the everyman, like I am educated in other areas. I read for nonfiction for pleasure, but it's not always environmental things. Like I feel like I'm the least educated on environmental issues of a lot of people on this board. So sometimes though, I feel like the meetings can veer off into a free-form symposium and we can get into a lot of very almost minutia, like on a topic that is like a diversion from a diversion on what we're intending to talk about. And I've learned a lot from those. So I'm not here to say it's all bad and I haven't enjoyed it in the moment, but all of a sudden it's like we come to and it's 9:15, So I feel like that's something else for us to think about as a board in terms of, and I always, it's so informative and everyone is so respectful and thoughtful and collegial that I enjoy it. But again, our time is limited. There is work that needs to be done. And so in our time here meeting, like, I feel like we should think about how much we're talking about, an article we read recently versus things that are more concretely tied to these GATs that are kind of our, structural raison d'etre, if you will.
But to be clear, you're kind of liking the articles that people have read. I mean, you like that.
Yeah, no, I find it interesting, but to me, I'm just saying I absolutely do, and I've learned a lot from it. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying there's a tension there, because we can have a couple meetings. I feel like there's been times where we could have a couple meetings come and go, and we're not really in a concrete way moving the ball on these things. But it shouldn't be. It would be. I feel like we would lose something that is special about this board if all we did was focus on how we're moving the ball on these things every meeting. So I'm just saying that there's a tension there that we should acknowledge. If that's like a
And I think we should be free to express ourselves in that board member comment. That could just be.
Presentation's a little more tapped.
Yeah.
Because I really can't tell you how often I tell people, 15 minutes max.
yeah.
I got blue in the face.
Well, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We're organizing this right now. And even what we talked about so far, I think is definitely a lot more organization.
Yeah.
So, thank you for all your comments. At this point, I'd like to open the floor up for public comment.
No pressure.
No?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. Where are y'all from?
Here.
Oh, cool.
So, one of the merit badges that I
Oh, do you mind coming to the
forward.
podium?
Thanks.
Thank you.
State your name and address. Or where, yep.
So, my name is Frank Chuzo. Like full address?
No, just the street is fine.
You live in the city?
Yeah, I live
Okay.
in Satellite Beach. I kind of just came and observed.
Cool.
For the merit badge, I have to see and understand the topics
Mhm.
that you all discussed and see both sides of it. It was a bit harder to do with talking about how the board runs, but
Right.
I think I got some information from it.
Oh, cool.
Which merit badge?
Communications. So,
Okay, there's a lot of communicating taking place
yeah.
here.
Well, we welcome you to come back, and one thing we are working on is having young people come and present on a topic for sustainability. So if there's anything you want to talk about in a public forum like this, you can get with Nick, you can get with Julie. It's a short, tiny application. We're happy to hear whatever you have to talk about.
Yeah, where is that?
Right here.
Where's the application?
Oh, the application, you have a copy?
Do you know, I have a copy. You can have my copy. It's a little, yeah.
If there's anything you've researched that you want to bring to our attention, we welcome it.
Would you like
We'll give you
There
a
you go.
spot.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And also, if you need an Eagle Scout project, if you're trying to do a project.
Yeah, that's another one of the things that I'm doing, because I'm a Life Scout now, which is one before Eagle. So I'm working on my final Eagle merit badges and my project. And I started working with the Schechner Center and the little park that they have right next to it. I'm going to try and refurbish that a bit, put new benches in, put a little bit more landscaping in, especially with the Founders Day Parade and the food trucks there. I feel like it would be a nice little addition for seating areas and
Yeah.
public gatherings.
Thanks, Frank.
And your name again?
Frank Chuzo.
Frank. Can you spell the last name?
Tuozzo.
Where do you go to school?
Satellite.
What grade are you in?
I am a junior, so 11th grade.
Cool.
Frank, they have a sustainability board at Satellite now.
Do they?
I don't know if you were here for that
Hey,
part.
hey, we need some,
What?
we
You'd be
keep
great
him on our team.
to be on this board. It's all grades, and they meet once a month, and Miss Flickinger's from Karen Flickinger. Talk to her.
Okay.
But definitely think about coming back and presenting something if you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay? Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Nice.
So,
Awesome.
all right. So any further public comment? No? All right, moving on to next item. Board member comments, please. Speak your mind. All right.
I just want to say, awesome with the second rodeo, bike rodeo again. You know, the food trucks canceled like the night before, so it's usually the monthly PAL, you know, outdoor event. And so we got, it was just us, but we ended up having quite a big group. You probably were going to talk about this, but I'm very excited about it. I'm sorry. I'll let you talk about the bike collective too.
Okay.
But I thought that was amazing.
I've already talked a lot. I'm good.
Okay. I'll go ahead and talk about the bike event this past week. It was awesome, and I appreciate you for coming out. I appreciate you, Nick, for helping me, and thank you very much for all the help you do. I mean, the flyers every month are phenomenal. Thank you, Julie. We heard that they were going to cancel the trucks, the food trucks, the night before, but we still kept it going. I got all the cones over there, and we set up a bike rodeo. Unfortunately, TPO was double booked. They had 2 other events, so they couldn't make it. So we set up our own bike rodeo. It was just, I got instructions from TPO, and they showed you how to set up the paths and so forth, and we had a great time. The bike police came through. They did very well. At the end of the event, I think we had 30 bikers,
Yeah,
maybe more.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was really good. But one thing I'm really happy about, even considering that we didn't have the food trucks, is we had a lot of kids. That was the most kids I've had at one of those events.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they'll come back. That kind of leads me to the next thing, which is the Bike Collective, which has been phenomenal. Everything that Scott does, Brittany, Josh, we're really coming together and making this happen. It's a lot of it has to do with Brittany and her involvement with the Recreation Board. They've spent around $2,000 for bicycle tools so that we can work on these bicycles together. Also, we had our first event last month for the Bike Collective. We were able to recondition one bike for a young lady, and it's really, and she went from a a training wheel bike to a legit bike. She's super happy. Got a beautiful picture with her that I'm hoping. Did you put that up on Facebook?
Nope.
I would like to get that up there.
I think we put it on Facebook, so
Yeah.
we could just share it.
And then,
Or, the Bike Collective.
I'll make a post on it.
then the Bike Collective was also there at the rodeo. So hopefully that continues to where it's all one. The Bike Collective was there, and we, again, were able to put together another bike for a young lady who was just too big for her little bike. Our family was actively looking for a bike, but, they just haven't pulled the trigger on that. We were able to offer her a bike right on the spot if she traded her bike.
Wow.
They were just about in tears.
She was thrilled. I mean,
The girl was thrilled.
yeah, they were
mother was
tearing up. Yeah.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, I know.
And she could.
I know.
I have beautiful pictures of us all together.
Tuesday is our Think Local Tuesday post.
Yeah.
Good one for Tuesday.
Yeah, no, it's great. So we've got a great picture with all the founding Bike Collective members behind this young lady. And I couldn't stop looking at that picture all weekend because she's just big enough right now to fit on this bike that we got her.
Yeah.
And in 3 months' time, it'll be the perfect fit for her, and she loved it. She was cruising around through the course like flawless.
Yeah.
So I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really great. We also have a great relationship with Bob's, and I've worked pretty closely to keep them involved because I don't want them to feel like we're trying to take business away from them. So they're very involved. Todd from the Bob's Bicycle Shop is there pretty much every bike ride, and he's been at every Bike Collective event. He's a mechanic for bikes. He's been a mechanic for over 20 years, tons of experience, and he's happy to get in there with the kids and start wrenching on bikes, teaching them. Everybody's learning. So it's been great. It's been great. We have an audience. I know you talked about we need to create kind of a message.
Right.
My only message is that you think about riding a bike instead of taking your car to Publix. That's all I have to say now.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I'll be honest, when I'm in the mix and I'm trying to, separate raffle tickets and stuff like that, I tend to forget to always preach that message. So
My husband Scott has a homemade bike trailer, and he's at Lowe's all the time with lumber.
Yeah.
So he's just a walking or a riding message.
yeah,
We're trying to do that, like carrying lumber. Yes.
yeah.
I'm like, on a bike.
I want to keep this to 2 more minutes. I'm sorry, but so Bob's Bicycle Shop, Todd, great guy. He just recently got a show on FIT. He's got all types of eclectic music playing. It's great. He's going to come through at our next meeting, which will be the first Saturday. It'll be a bike collective meeting. We just received a large donation of bicycles, but we are in the business of repurposing or recycling these bikes, and that's a really big thing that we're trying to push. But the way bikes come to us, they are not recyclable because there's so many different metals on a bike. And if you took a bike just the way it is to the recycling place, they won't receive it or give you the same amount of money. So Todd is going to take his time to show us how to dismantle bikes professionally within 10 minutes. And he's got different ways of cutting the bikes to where we can separate these metals into different categories. And of course, if there's a bike that's still good, we're going to refurbish that and get it out into the community. So I'm really excited about that. About your husband's trailer.
Yeah.
I've been talking, I don't know if I talked to you about it, but we'd love to make it a float.
Oh, yeah, he'd love that, yeah. Yeah.
For the Founders Day Parade.
Oh, it'd be great.
And I'd like to organize a bike ride. I technically want to be as close to the band as possible, but I'd like us to ride with a banner.
That'd be awesome. Mark, you should
When you
speak
say
for it.
us, are you talking about the bike collective?
I'm saying the bike collective. I'm saying the sustainability board can be on the bikes too. It's all the same. And I'd like to have, I envision maybe 50 or more bikes, rolling down the road. We have our music,
Be awesome.
whatever. I think we
Advertising.
we have time to organize something like that. It's like the third?
November 2nd.
Second. So I'll use the avenues that we have existing right now, which would be our Facebook page for the Sustainability Board, and also Bike Collective has a great page that we've been able to get a lot of conversation on. We've gotten donations through that page, so I'd like to get them linked up in some way so we can get some more people.
That'd be great, yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing. The compost idea, I just want to mention something about that. At the school, we are working on a project. One of the kids at my school, he loves coffee. But one thing we have an abundance of, or will have the abundance of, is compost. We have a lot of people in our area where the school's situated that want to donate compost. But I have a gentleman who wants to learn about coffee. So I've designed a little course for him where, and I thought of an idea that might be fun, would be to start using coffee from some of our local coffee shops, because it just goes in the trash, and it's great compost. So I thought of an idea for coffee-infused compost, kind of a clever, catchy way of advertising compost. We can advertise the benefits of the coffee and compost. What's that?
Caffeinated compost?
The Wicked Pineapple has already agreed to some kind of a future compost agreement. If we can collect it, they might be willing to work with us on.
Great. We're going to use Anaya over in that area where we are. Every day at 2 o'clock is when they want us to come, but I don't know if we can do every day.
Aren't they having the move? I'm starting to diverge. I'm breaking my own rule.
No, it's fine. Their establishment is for sale. I think $50,000 to take it over. I'd love it if the school would take it over, but I don't know how realistic that is. That being said, they've been talking about that for a while, and it hasn't happened. So they're still there. Even if they don't exist, we can still take from the 2 Starbucks that are in the area, because they were collecting they were collecting coffee grounds for a while, but they stopped because nobody was picking it up. So if you make a special request at a coffee shop, they'll save it.
Do you know what, I signed up for the compost GAT also, and I've been feeling like banging this drum for a long time about shredded paper and paper that goes into recycling. Especially with the recycling crisis that's happening right now, where does it go? Anyway, those things could be, I mean, there is plenty of that to somehow end up in compost also.
Chris, I don't want to interrupt, but just on the composting, before you finish that, I did talk to Rodney Smith this morning, and he's looking to really push his new nonprofit, which is going to be Hook Kids on Gardening. Composting will be a big part of that, and he wants to work on that. And then the Trinity Wellsprings Church off of South Patrick has a lot of land back there, and one of their representatives has come and talked to me about utilizing some of that. So maybe we can all work together on that and do something with the property and the nonprofit and the collective and the coffee together. So that could be another good meeting.
Is that church in the city?
No.
No.
But they're,
It's in greater.
It's very close.
It's in greater
Yes, Jared
Satellite
Brockovich
Beach.
it is. That's a joke.
sorry to interrupt,
No,
but I
no,
just felt like that was.
That's fine.
Yes,
So
perfect.
30
Awesome. And then
seconds,
we'll
30
focus
seconds
on
more.
the Complete Street.
Basically, the full circle on the, one second. No problem.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Grab another
thanks.
piece of pizza before you go.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there's pizza for my birthday.
Oh,
Please eat
there is a
some.
lot of extra
Tons.
people.
Tons.
Thank you, Alexis.
Last
you.
little bit.
57. He looks great, right?
Can I,
Thanks.
as we make money for the compost, we're hopefully going to buy a coffee roaster. I know that's not the most sustainable practice, but it is a trade. So this gentleman at the school would like to start roasting coffee, and that'll create the full circle, going to the coffee shop, coming back to the compost, and learning a skill. He would like to own his own coffee shop, so.
Are you talking about yourself in the
This
third person?
Yeah, I know, right?
It
He really
doesn't
likes
hurt. It
coffee.
doesn't, I love working with the kid because I love coffee too. But that's all I have to say on that.
I think I'll pass. I've consumed some time already.
Yeah, I'm working with Julie to write an article for the next Beachcaster
Cool.
about solar.
That's
So the
awesome.
next one that comes out, hopefully I'll have an article, and meeting with Nick on Friday to talk about solar.
I love the Beachcaster, by the way. Just want to say that. And awesome idea for an article. Just thumbs up comment, yeah.
I don't have anything.
All right.
We're early.
All right, so,
We're not done yet.
any public comment? Any further public? Okay, no? All right. This is the good part here. Agenda items, next order of business, agenda items for next couple meetings. Let's see if we can do that, like some good solid ones.
Well, I mean, out of the things that we talked about today, what do we think? The way I'm thinking about it is the next few months, it sounds like we have to schedule November and December because they might conflict with some holidays. And
Well, I think we'll do that next,
next time, okay.
but if we can talk about the,
So remaining of the year schedule will be an item for next board meeting, it sounds like.
No, we can do it tonight.
what?
I gave you those dates.
Oh, no, we have the dates. We have some
Oh.
dates. We can discuss those first.
Whatever works.
Okay. So Julie was saying that we have November the 13th available for a meeting?
No, normally we take the December and November and just kind of go one in the middle.
Oh, is that what you want to?
Okay.
Unless you want to do a November or December, I don't care.
Those are the dates that you have here, right?
Those are the only available dates, yeah.
And halfway is like early December, is that?
Yeah,
what
it's like
happens?
December 11th.
Doing the December date, if we're only going to do one, we probably should do the December date, I would say. I'm not saying that we should only do one, but I'm saying if we're going to do one, I think it makes more sense to do December.
That is completely up to you guys. I am available. It's completely up to you.
I'm more inclined to do one each month. I know that we're super busy, but that's well before the holiday.
November 11th is the
November
date?
11th, yeah.
Veterans Day?
No, November 13th or December.
Oh, November
sorry,
13th, sorry. November 13th.
I have a conflict on the 13th, but you guys can, by all means, proceed without me.
I'm available.
I'll
Thank you.
check.
Thank you.
Grab a piece of pizza.
Yes, please, Frank, you know you want to.
Can't eat it all.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I know, yeah, it's just, he's like, oh, God, yeah.
I'm available for either, but I'm in favor of doing December, because otherwise I think it's a big gap between our next meeting then at the end of January, and I think leaving a gap from mid-November to the end of January, there's just a lot that we could miss.
Yeah.
And I don't see any benefit to doing one just, 2 weeks after our October one.
I tend to concur with Jazzy.
Okay. All right.
I don't just tend to, I do concur with
I
Jazzy.
will say that we do have the ORV, the Ocean Reef Beach, on December 7th. So as long as we have a meeting before that to discuss that event.
We'll have next,
You'll have October.
Okay,
we need to have that participation and upcoming festivals.
okay.
So is that you got that as an agenda item then? Okay.
Did we set a date?
Yeah, so we're not going to do November the 13th. We're going to do December 11th.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll do, that means October,
Basically 6 weeks.
yeah. But October 23rd?
My third year.
October 23rd, we'll skip a month, then we'll do December 11th, okay? All right, so we got that out of the way. Now let's talk about agenda items for next meetings. Should we have one of the items be mangrove shorelines? Should we talk about that?
We can make that an item.
An item?
I'll bring all the info and I can do a quick 3 minutes on that to give everybody up to date, version of how they can be involved and what roles they can play and that kind of thing we talked about.
Yeah,
Well, does
yeah,
Julie-
that'd be great.
Does Julie have, we already have the involvement in upcoming special, okay.
Well, I re-listened to it again, so.
But I think just for some accountability, maybe updates on board member GAT engagement, you know what I mean? Like we're all trying to meet with Nick between now, now and then, maybe just an update on, I don't know.
Yeah.
GAT engagement?
I like that.
Update on GAT engagement?
Yeah.
Cool.
Accountability for GAT engagement in furtherance of sustainability.
Write that down. That's good.
So you got that as a agenda item? Got it? You're all over it.
And then we need to talk about Ocean Reef Beach Festival. Yeah.
And Founder's Day.
I just put festival.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
We'll get them.
Umbrella, yeah.
I promise.
Okay. Is there another one?
Mm.
I'm just sending emails to myself for the stuff that I need to do.
I mean, if you think of things during the month, you can certainly email me.
For sure.
anytime.
But we're trying
Yeah.
to set the next couple months up.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it in between meetings, I think it's something later tonight, just shoot me a quick email and tell me.
Okay.
And then I can forward it out and everyone can know.
What are you thinking for December? Can we look at December and
Of course.
pencil in some?
After action on the 2 big events.
Oh, reaction to events?
This is another kind of, I guess, high-level thought, but I think it's really good that we're taking this time to do these kind of workshop meetings, but we don't want to totally get away from having speakers, so maybe looking forward, not necessarily the 2 meetings we have remaining in 2019, but going into 2020, getting, because we had a lot of speakers back to back for a little while, but having presentations that are going to be specifically applicable to the remaining GATs, to kind of give us ideas of moving forward on those, particularly the ones that are at less than 50%. I think it's something to be thinking about, big picture.
Also, I'll comment that we've had a lot of conversations, staff and board members, about the youth presentations.
Right.
Do we want to schedule one of those, or when would the board like to schedule the first one of those?
I'd love to schedule one as soon as we can get one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any youths?
I'm
I have 2 youths.
Yes, we had a ute, but didn't come through for this month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fine. I would like to have this young man that I've been working with present, maybe short, but he's not ready yet. That may be even a December thing. So,
I think we should ideally try to have one on the agenda for October and for December.
yeah, that'd be great. I don't know if we can try Levi again.
Yeah.
If we can, let's put that on there now.
Try for Levi one more time.
Yeah, yeah. He was traveling in DC for the Youth Climate March, things like that. So, but yeah, I'll try him again.
Okay.
Yeah, for October 23rd.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can reach out to Denali, or you can reach out to Denali too. I mean, I'm sure she would love to.
Katie said something about she's doing another experiment that they're going to be ready in the spring. At least that's what she said to me.
Well, yeah, for her science fair.
Right, but she said that that would be a good time to present, like here, after she collects, like for experiment number 2. That's what she said last time, or at the party.
I thought she told me that she had one that she could present sooner rather
I
than
thought
later.
she said that too.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah, you can-
Denali could get up here every month.
Right.
Yeah.
5 minutes. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Whenever's available.
sure.
So,
What
Should I
about
reach
the-
out to her for October or for December?
December, Denali.
December.
Can we put that tentative? All right.
I just need to know the Friday before, the Thursday before I send out the agenda, please.
Yeah.
Thursday the latest.
Yeah. Sure, yeah, no, that's,
I'm just
yeah.
saying, you know, we can check.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I'm not messing with that. No way, no how.
Would the board like me to post it on the Facebook page, the forum and the invite?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great
Is that-
idea, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and also the Satellite Beach High School Board, would they be a crossover? No?
I mean, they might
They
want
want
to
to present things that they're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was also thinking with Surfside next door, and Erica Mayer doing a lot of her 4-H stuff, it might be fun to have one of the 4-H kids come in and present too.
She also has a speech class.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
Book it out.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give Erica the form and tell her
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, we'll see you there. We're in 4-H. That's good.
She gave me a shirt the other day. I'm gonna wear it
Oh, that's nice.
next to.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really cool.
The green
Sorry.
one, the green, yeah.
All right. So is that we've got a few items listed there, penciled in,
I wondered about compost for December.
compost?
I don't know if it's too full already for December, but,
Well, the compost workshop with KBB is
Okay.
tentatively scheduled for December 14th,
oh,
which would put us 3 to 4 days right before that.
Okay,
So that might be good.
all right,
work.
let's do it. Oh, John and I were at the ad hoc committee for the fire department, the new fire department. That was really cool.
I'm not sure there's going to be much there to
To talk about.
talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah. I thought you were going to talk about that a little bit, actually.
I don't know,
Premature, maybe?
see how it turns out.
Cryptic.
No, I feel like our input, honestly, from our feeling, I feel like our input isn't taken, not too seriously, but this chair keeps on going down. They haven't finalized the landscaping yet, or how that would be
Well, the
situated.
first meeting, they explained there's a sequence of things that has to happen,
Mhm.
and basically, the interior of the building, they have to figure how much space they need. Once they've done that, then they have to figure the distribution of space. And after that, then it's where does this fit? And then it's egress and ingress, and then it's landscaping, and it's a process. And they very well accommodated what the committee was interested in from the first time. You saw some of the blowback from that when Dominic didn't like all the equipment on the east end. But that was specifically at the guidance of the committee, because that's where the major wind's going to come from. And you didn't want to expose the occupants, you didn't want windows there. And so, they'll have to work around that somehow. But it's a process, and they're listening. I'll be interested to see what landscape they come up with. The thing that I'm concerned about is they keep saying they're talking to staff, but Public Works had not seen the list of plans. And that would be the first place I would have gone, was, what do you guys, here's a list of plants, what do you think? And I got a feeling Public Works would have said, not that one, not that one, not that one, and here's the reason why. But we can suggest these. So I kind of played that role.
Nick, you've been working with them closely on sustainability.
I went to the first meeting. I didn't get to attend the second.
You don't attend regular meetings for that design?
The ad hoc green committee?
Not just the ad hoc green committee, but
I attend every meeting that I'm invited to.
Yeah,
I think Lexi's a little more.
Lexi is? Okay. So, okay.
But it's a cost-constrained problem. And that's real clear. And parking is going to be an issue, and I think parking is going to eat up a bunch of landscape.
And we were talking about while we were there, we mentioned permeable parking. I know you probably talked about that too, because there's going to be a need for extra parking for special events and stuff.
Permeable parking at those new doubles?
Yeah, it looks good.
They did a good job there.
Is there a bike rack?
There's a bike rack.
Yes.
And a surfboard rack.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
There will be a surfboard rack.
That's perfect.
All right.
Now, it could be that whenever that committee gets to the point that they're ready to recommend to council, that might be interesting, but it'd be more just an informative, is what we came up with.
All right. So, any further public comment? No.
Public left.
Public left.
Yeah.
Before we adjourn the meeting, I just want to side note, make sure that everybody's happy with everything that's happened today. And hopefully we've gained some clarity on how we're going to proceed in the next couple months.
No meeting approval, no minutes approval?
Oh, I will.
Oh, okay.
Just
I
wanna
thought you
make
were
sure.
closing the meeting.
Want to make sure everybody's happy. Yeah, so we have a clear,
I just appreciate being able to kind of hash it out a little,
okay.
because it really helps, I think, to just clarify and get it all straight and then move forward, come back to it again in, 6 months. Make sure we're still on the same page.
I think it's been a healthy and
Government speed. Keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, I know government speed. Yeah.
I think it's been a healthy and productive dialogue. I do.
Cool. All right, so adoption of the August 28th, 2019 minutes.
So moved.
There's an error, just it had the next meeting as the 23rd. I forgot about this meeting, but,
I did notice.
yeah.
I'll correct that.
With that correction, I would second.
Okay.
All right. All right, Jennifer Schroeder,
Yes.
Amy Gallo,
Yes.
John Fergus,
Yes.
Chris Breed,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, that'll be the adjournment.
Thanks.